Greetings, and welcome to A Year of Movies, a Planet Geek production. For this project, we are using the Ivan Walters reference book of 365 films to watch on the day they happened. Each day, we watch a movie associated with the date we are watching it on. And as it is the 11th of July, we are going to be watching Chariots of Fire from 1981, directed by Hugh Hudson and starring Ben Cross. So to begin with, I was well aware of this movie according to critics and giving this high praise and all that sort of thing. At the time, it wasn't something that interested me in seeing in the theaters because it was 81 and I was 10, so chances are I wasn't going to see this. But I do believe that I eventually did see this, probably on one of those, like I had mentioned before, those movie networks that we had up in Canada, either First Choice or Super Channel, whichever one of those it was that we were watching. But again, it had been a while since I'd seen this movie. So, and like I had already mentioned, not only does this movie star Ben Cross, but it also stars Ian Charleson, Nicholas Farrell, Nigel Havers, Cheryl Campbell, Alice Cridge, and Ian Holm. In the class-obsessed and religiously divided United Kingdom of the early 1920s, two determined young runners trained for the 1924 Paris Olympics. Eric Liddell, played by Ian Charleson, a devout Christian born to Scottish missionaries in China, sees running as part of his worship to God's glory and refuses to train or compete on the Sabbath. Harold Abrahams, played by Ben Cross, overcomes anti-Semitism and class bias, but neglects his beloved sweetheart Sybil, played by Alice Cridge, in his single-minded quest. Now, upon the watching of it for probably the first time in a very long time, the religious aspects of this movie, which are essential to the core of this movie, played out a lot more in the forefront than I had originally probably conceived of it before. Now, the idea of this being a huge event when it came out theatrically, critically acclaimed, great acting and whatnot, I found it being rather a more dullish movie. I didn't find the draw. I couldn't understand what it was that audiences or critics had seen in this movie when it originally came out. That's not to say that the acting was subpar. We have a great cast and whatnot, and we have some really interesting ways of telling this story, but I think the forwardness of the religious background was a little more than I was expecting upon this watch. I was expecting more of an underdog sort of story, which is, not really my favorite type of story, where these guys train to become professional enough to, amateurly professional enough to join in on the Olympics. And of course, they do have to. They don't automatically start off as the best. They do have to go through it, which is kind of cool. Seeing training montages from the 1920s to figure out how to get these guys into the role that they are. But again, I don't think I had remembered how religious forward the storytelling was. And I mean, the Vangelis soundtrack is fantastic. There's no denying that why this movie was a hit musically with the score. The theme, Chariots of Fire, just synonymous with this movie. But I also found that it was kind of weird because we are talking 81. We're talking late 70s, early 80s when this movie was put together, and how synthetic the actual soundtrack sounded, like very much played through synth completely through, not really big orchestrated music as I would have thought it would have been, but it sounded a lot more modern sounding to the visuals of something set in the 1920s. So when it comes down to the 100-meter heat being held on the Sunday, Liddell has to trade his event with a team member, and he ends up going on to win a gold medal in the 200 meters on July 11th, 1924, which is about an hour and 52 minutes into this 2-hour and 4-minute movie. And when it came to the Academy Awards for that particular season, it actually ended up winning for Best Picture, Best Original Music Score, Best Writing, Original Screenplay, and Best Costume Design. Also getting nominated for Best Supporting Actor for Ian Holm, Best Director,
best film editing. And on that note, we're going to wrap up this particular episode and look off into the future to see what we're going to be watching for tomorrow, which is going to be the 12th of July, and that is Bobby Jones' Stroke of Genius from 2004. So until next time, go see a movie.